I'm happy. No, that's not it. Are you guilty for being happy? It seems to me that it's quite common to feel guilt when you let yourself be happy, joyful, content. And in this video, I want to explore why that might be. But before we go on, let me just say that I don't want to define happiness in this video. So when I use the word happy, I'm not saying the happiest you can be, or I'm not saying you're happy 24/7. I only mean being glad you're alive, being content with how your life is, feeling satisfied, fulfilled, just for the sake of the argument. Also, I will be referencing depression in this video, so I just want to stress that I'm not a professional. I'm just exploring things based on my own personal experience and some of my reflections. First of all, I think we can experience this kind of guilt when we've been miserable for a long time. For example, with depression, but it doesn't have to be depression, just any elongated period of misery, sadness. And then when we finally get out of this mindset, when we feel ready to be happy and live life to the fullest, there's this guilt in our stomachs. I think this might be linked to a lack of trust, first and foremost. Because if we've been feeling terrible for a long time, then we suddenly stop. It's natural not to believe that it will last. So I suppose this has less to do with actual guilt and more with disbelief. That guilt may come from the fact that we don't trust in the sustainability of our happiness. And maybe a part of us does believe, and that's why we feel guilty, because we think it's wrong to believe that, since it will obviously not happen. But the thing is, it really shouldn't matter if it lasts or not. We only live in the moment. And sure, there will be plenty of times when you feel bad again, and then you feel good again, and that's what life is. Emotions are not an exclusive relationship in a sense that you choose one or you're stuck with one for years, even if that's what you've experienced with, for example, sadness or despair. But life is about contrast, a palette of emotions. So if you're at a point when you're finally not consistently miserable anymore, you will never be consistently happy either, because life is varied. But that doesn't mean you don't have a shot at experiencing true joy at life many, many times, even if not all the time. Of course, then there's the argument that we may feel guilty for being happy because we subconsciously or consciously think we don't deserve it. Maybe we've done something blameworthy, or maybe we stuck to the realm of misery for so long that we almost feel as if we betrayed happiness and we don't have a right to take it because we haven't used it for so long. As if it was, again, an exclusive relationship and binding for life, and if we don't take care of it regularly, then somehow we miss out on it and we don't have another chance for it. But there's no reason why we wouldn't deserve feeling good. We're not hurting anyone by feeling content. On the contrary, we might actually have a better shot at helping someone. And the feeling of contentment is not something we just grow out of, or something that expires. It's not that we refuse it once and then we can't have it again. And if you are someone who felt extremely bad for a long time, which is obviously not something you chose, that does not mean you're bound to that for the rest of your life. And that may seem obvious to some, but maybe not to others, since I know that I had a period in my life where I believed I would never be able to feel differently, feel better. And I didn't think I deserved it either, but that's not true. Maybe the guilt also comes from the fact that we feel like we're being complacent and not really happy. And that is a semi-good point. If you have a history of not feeling good for a long time, then feeling good feels almost like cheating, like we're taking the easy road and that's somehow wrong. And sure, that may also have something to do with the fact that we live in a very productivity-oriented culture, and if you're too happy, it might mean you're doing nothing, I guess. But sometimes the feeling of contentment may actually stem from remaining in our comfort zones and not always pushing ourselves to our limits just to prove that we have the motivation to keep going and that we're not miserable anymore. We have nothing to prove. So if you're pushing yourself Are you doing it because it truly makes you feel fulfilled? Or do you just want to prove to yourself and to the world that you're somehow more properly alive? Long-term complacency may not be very good, but there's a time and place for everything. Maybe we're also scared of the consequences. We're scared of saying, I'm happy, because we'll have to maintain it even if it goes away. As if asserting we are happy is a responsibility we have towards other people. But it isn't. It's ours only. How we feel is solely our business, unless it tangibly affects someone else. In reality, most people in our lives are too preoccupied with their own problems to think about whether we are happy or not. So it's our responsibility to make ourselves happy. So at the end of the day, we'll never be consistently happy. But if you have been unhappy for too long and you finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, try not to feel too guilty or uncertain while going towards that light. It will still get dark sometimes, but that's just life. Okay, take 2. I am happy. Let's just move on to another reason why we feel guilty for being happy, which is that, well, have you seen the news lately? I won't get too much into this, but the world is not at a greatest place right now. And then again, is it ever? And there are many reasons why what's happening in the world could make us unhappy. I do often say here that we are only bound to ourselves, but we are inevitably connected to the world. If the world aches, we do too. But aside from that, we also do have our own singular consciousness in our most immediate experience, which is very individual. And that immediate experience is our first point of contact, so to speak. That's the lens through which we experience the world. And if that isn't working right, then what else can work? I do believe that first and foremost, we have an obligation towards ourselves, because we'll never be able to care about anyone or anything as closely as ourselves. It's our only opportunity to literally save someone's life so immediately and intimately. In her book, Trick Mirror, Jia Tolentino writes, "The internet was frantically increasing our ability to know about things, while our ability to change things stayed the same, or possibly shrank right in front of us." And this is a very uncomfortable position to be in. We know more about what's happening in the world than ever before, and it feels like we should do more. But this knowledge often makes us powerless, because we cannot do more than ever. It's great if we manage to do something, and I think we should try, of course, but we will not save the entire world. And I think we should come to terms with that without becoming completely hopeless. And we should try our best to try to make the world a better place on the one hand, but also making sure that we have the ability to feel good in it, whatever is happening on the other. Because I think we should also admit that we did not choose to be here. We entered this world, and now we're expected to figure everything out by ourselves. So the least we can do is try to feel good while we're here. I worry. Of course I do. But I also need to live my life day by day. We all do. And however the world may be at any given moment, we have one short life. And I really don't want to waste it, not anymore. And I really wouldn't want you to waste it either, if you can help it. And you can. I believe so. The last reason for this kind of guilt is something I've discussed in a few videos already, so I won't get into too much detail here. And it's about the belief that we cannot be happy until we achieve X or Y. We tell ourselves that we need to change this about ourselves or that, and then we'll finally achieve the grand happiness. But the reality is that if we base our happiness on any sort of achievement, then it will never be enough. I go into this in some of my other videos, so I post the card to it here and some of the links below. So do check them out after this video if you're interested. Especially if you're struggling with that, you need to be somehow fixed before you can enjoy life. You don't. Of course, happiness is a very complex topic. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's circumstances are different. And Feeling guilty for being happy is just one of many, many things that may stop us from being happy. But I think it is also an important one, if not quite overlooked one as well. There's nothing wrong with you if you let that feeling in, if you accept it. You might have been feeling bad for years, but that doesn't mean it has to affect how you're feeling now. And the world is what it is, but we still need to live. We still need to live. So let's live the best we can. And let's try to feel it deeply, the good and the bad. But let's not refuse the good. Life is just too short. So, the last time, really, it will be the last time, I am